Get a team that screams,
oh. 96.9 FM WAZZ. Your big ass rock station here in town, Willow Springs, rocking your heart across town and online at Big Jax Radio. That's with the JAX. Of course, I'm speaking to you from a wonderful dial setting with engaging content, a quality sound, strong listener connection, and clear band identity. And quality DJs, I might add. God, Lord knows. So why would it not surprise you, Rocker, that quality DJs and wonderful, talented, professional personalities are here with the presentation, bringing you this great rock and roll music, making the show happen, making all this successful radio station here. Why would it not surprise you that there are talented folks like myself, been in radio for years and years, had to start out on the AM dial back in the 70s. So your rock jock here knows the business. Well, Rocker, I guess things have changed over time. I guess we've got all the other outlets that we can get our music from. And maybe you don't want to wait around, for 30 minutes to an hour to possibly hear your favorite rock song. And maybe calling the request line is not going to get you wet anytime soon. And maybe you see me in the store and you think, there's that clown ass and local celebrity. I don't think so. Not anymore. But I tell you what, Rocker, all of our hard work has not paid off this day and time in radio. Let me tell you about the changing climate in the radio landscape here. Come a little closer to the radio in case you're maybe thinking about a new career change and you're maybe considering a job in radio at a radio station. I wouldn't be surprised if this wouldn't come to mind and you thought, man, I don't have a college degree, I don't have a master's or any of the college stuff to get myself on the radio station. Well, apparently, Rocker, you don't even need talent anymore to do this. Let me tell you why, Rocker. Now, I've long been against interns. I don't want to work with them, I don't want to see them, and I don't even like them. That's why I call them interns. Well, Rocker, yeah, we've got a cheap radio station here. I was introduced here about an hour ago. Yeah, they come in here and they toured the radio stations, and one of them even made the comment I've never even seen inside of a radio station. I'm thinking maybe this is the Scouts, or the Girl Scouts coming through or something. Maybe the local middle school, but boy, was I wrong. Apparently, this is our job replacement. Upper management has decided to overlook the hiring process and have these interns come up in here and maybe do some work. We have to bend over backwards to get up in this place to get a job. And by that, I mean we have to go through a background check, a drug test. Well, maybe not the drug test. I think they let that go a long time ago. But you had to have an air check. Now, in case you don't know nothing about this business, Rocker, yes, we have to give some accountability for our experience. We call these air checks. And what these are here, Rocker, is audio snapshots of our career. That way, upper management, when they're making a determination on whether or not they want you on the radio station, they can see how you possibly might fit in. The primary purpose of an air check at a radio station is to review and analyze on-air performance for improvement or just acceptance overall, and maybe you could get the job. And we have to go through a background check, and then we have to negotiate pay. And by negotiating the pay, I just basically mean management says, yeah, we're going to give you X amount of dollars to come up in this place to pull off such a magnificent broadcast. And the only negotiating that there's to do that involves you is basically you just either agree with it or you don't. But when the interns show up, of course, they're ready to do anything for no pay to get on the radio station or to do whatever they want to do to get the job. Well, Rock, I tell you, I was introduced to a young man and a young lady that came in here from upper management, and they said that these were the interns from the Willow Springs Community College, and they were students in the broadcasting course down there. And I let into them, and I told them they were making the worst career choice of their life. I don't know why in the world they want to get into this business. And then I went to say how upper management doesn't want to pay anything. Pretty good station. I mean, we're playing the rock and roll, but you got to know your rock and roll. You got to know your music. You got to know what you're doing up in there. I mean, there's only about 60,000, 100,000 folks listening at any given time to this radio station here. This is a big deal in broadcasting. And I asked the young man, I said, what is this your favorite station? Do you like the rock and roll? He said, well, I'm new to the format, but I'm willing to learn it. And I said, that's good to know. I said, we'll take all the rockers we can get. I love your rock and roll music, buddy. He did ask me for maybe some musical selections that maybe he could start with to familiarize himself with the rock and roll. Well, I wrote a couple down on a piece of paper, and sure enough, as he put it in his pocket, he told me, he said, I'll check these out on Spotify the first chance I get. I said, what do you mean you're going to check them out on Spotify? I said, you mean listening to the radio station here that you're wanting to be a part of? Well, apparently an hour after they were dismissed, apparently class was over and they had to go back to the college. I was called in to the management's office, and I was assigned 2 hours a day to work with this intern. And I said, I am not going to work with this intern who's going to turn around and take my job. And they said, Big Jax, we know you're a team player because that's what you said when we hired you. And I said, like hell. I said, I don't work for working with no intern. These youngins can work their way up. They need to start out on the AM band and work their way up and learn like the rest of us old school professional jocks. And at that point, I was informed that the young lady will be working with down the hall at the Top 40 station, and the young man will be assigned to WAZZ here, at which time I got a little furious, and I asked upper management, I said, did this guy have an air check? What kind of experience or background does he have? And management said that he had no experience. He has no background in radio. Management said that the only job he's ever had, upper management said that he worked down at the mall, at the Pick and Pay shoe store, and now he's looking for a job, and radio has no air check, no experience, no talent, no musical knowledge, coming up in here to work with me. And I said, I am not going to tell this young man about all the things that he needs to learn from experience. Well, at that point, he informed me that he will be starting to do middays on the weekends, just before your main man Clyde comes up in here. Well, now, I was furious and I was not happy with the decision. I kind of feel like my talent has been downgraded from a professional to just maybe I'm back at the AM band, or maybe I'm a little discouraged here. I thought this was a professional station, and here we have some clown off the street. All of a sudden, he's up in here making decisions, playing the music, and entertaining you, and has never cracked the microphone before. I even asked upper management, I said, he made the statement that he had never even seen inside of a radio station when he walked up in this studio a couple hours ago. And they said, well, that's good. I said, that's bad. And they asked why it was bad. I said, well, because he doesn't know his way around. I mean, he's starting out at a top-notch station here just because he paid for a piece of paper. Has no experience. Mind you, Rocker, this show ought to be pretty good coming up this weekend, because that's when he's coming in. If you want to stick around, maybe you're out doing your yard sale, maybe you're getting ready for your big party at night, whatever you're doing on the Saturday, got this youngin' coming up in here. And I am not going to be working much with him during the 2 hours that I'm assigned. I'm much griping and complaining as I done. They cut it down to 30 minutes and said, maybe we just don't think you are a good example. And I said, I am not a good example because I do not support this at all. Well, at that point, management told me to get on out of the office. Looks like everyone around here is just open arms to these folks. But I got news for them. I'm putting on the big freeze. There ain't nothing Big Jax is going to show these interns. I don't even want them in the studio with me. And I will make that very clear come tomorrow when I'm up in here and they come walking up in here. I might have them dust the counter. Grass outside in the yard needs a little bit cut. nobody's cut their station grass, the yard, in about a month. I might have send them down there and do some yard work and some landscaping. Maybe pull some of that grass out of the flower bed there at the front lobby. But they will not be in here in my presence getting any knowledge from me. That's what they went to school for. You don't start out at the top. The young girl down the hall at the top 40, little Girl Scout or whoever she is, she's going to be assigned to help out the morning show. A sidekick doing all the dirty work. That's all right. Go on and let this kid that ain't never been on the radio station start out on the morning show. It's only your biggest primary time slot on the dial. Sure, let them start out at the top. Hey, New York, we got one here for you. Chicago Z100 in New York. Hey, they're down here. Hits 105 and the big ass trying to break into this business. They don't know anything. But by God, they're going to be showing up here at the biggest time slot on the dial. And let's work with the top professionals as if they ain't got enough to do already. Let's show all the secrets and give all the secrets away. People forgot what it was like to work your way to the top. So we will see how these interns turn it out this weekend. Let's get back to rocking 96.9 FM WAZZ. Them interns and this radio station can kiss my big ass.